Thank you for joining me for this episode of God Talk, and I have a new podcasting format. The format that I had been using to record my previous podcast is no longer supporting some of the features I need to do the podcast, so this is my first episode with a different podcast, or a podcast recording software, and so this is a little bit of an experiment. You're probably noticing a little different music in the background, so I'll have different background musics to choose from. I think this is in the calm section. What's cool about though is I can raise it and I can reduce the sound, so even as I'm talking, I'm dropping the sound on it to much more background, and so it gives me some abilities to do some features that I wasn't able to do before. If I'm going to give a big announcement, I'm not really going to do this probably for the most part because it's a little cheesy, but just because I'm showing you it's some new features and like having a new car, new toy or whatever, I can do before a big announcement a drum roll, and I can just kind of make it so that, you know, whatever I say, you guys are going to cheer. Once again, I promise to not do that very often, if at all. But all this to say, I have some different features I can use. I can actually change the echo, so it sounds like I'm talking from a church or a school or different places and so forth. So kind of cool. Can do more than what the last one did, but I'm changing because I can no longer use the one that I did before. So I hope that the quality even maybe sounds a little bit better as well. Last week's podcast, I talked about some changes or potential changes that were going on with staff, and I am excited to report that all of those are moving forward. We have locked in our worship guy 100%. He's starting part-time June 1st, and if you go to Light of the World, you'll want to be at church on May the 19th because Joe is going to be out of town, and the new guy, his name's Jonathan, or you can call him New Guy. He's going to be leading us in worship on May the 19th. Then on May the 26th, another new guy, the guy that's coming in to take over, like doing discipleship, and he's going to start a 20-somethings ministry, 30-something type fellowship group, teach Bible classes, do a lot of technology and stuff that Joe was able to do for us. He is going to be visiting on May 26th. The last Sunday in May, and assuming that we don't scare him away, he is on board and he's ready to come. He just is from Houston and thinks it would be kind of irresponsible to not check out the church in person. So I can't remember the name of the Chevy Chase movie. I think it was Funny Farm. They're trying to sell their house, and so all the people of the town are all kind of weird and stuff like that. Not saying our churches, not at all, but it's a funny movie. And so he wants to be able to sell the house to the new people, and so he has to pay them all off to get them all to be nice. You know, the mailman that normally just throws the mail on the lawn and honks and kind of yells and drives down the road is now putting it nicely in the mailbox. That is what we're going to want to do on May the 26th to seal the deal with this young man's name is Zach, and I'm very excited about him as well. He's just 30 years old and is really going to be able to connect with the young crowd at Light of the World, and is also very, very, very mature for his age. So I have to tell you, I could not be any more excited than these two individuals that God has brought to our congregation. I was confident all along that He would, God would provide. That I just had to kind of, wait upon Him and go through the process. And it's been a long one for the worship one. Well, I say long for me. It's been maybe 2.5 months. And for the other position, maybe just maybe 3 or 4 weeks or so, which isn't bad at all. But once again, these two individuals you'll get to meet if you're at Light of the World over the next couple weeks. Now, with that being said, on to the podcast for today. We've all heard the phrase, when cows fly, right? Like, that means it's just not going to happen. Well, how about when an axe head floats? Now, if you've ever swung an axe, they're heavy, and they don't float at all. I was going to say easily, but they don't float at all. An axe head is extremely heavy. If you've ever swung an axe, it doesn't take very many swings, and honestly, it gets to be pretty laborious. But there's a really cool Bible passage in 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 1 to 7, about this axe head that falls into a river and actually floats. And so I want to read it to you from 2 Kings chapter 6. It says, "The company of prophets said to Elisha," now Elisha is kind of the head honcho prophet in his day. He's the one that takes over for Elijah after Elijah goes up into heaven in a whirlwind in a chariot of fire. So you have this company of prophets. Well, who's the company of prophets? They're kind of like almost students of the prophets, people that go around and support the prophets and so forth. But kind of more like prophets in training type people. Kind of like, I guess if you're a Star Wars fan, is it the Padawan or something like that? The kind of the young ones that are the kind of up and coming ones. So that's the company of prophets. They say to Elisha, they say, "Look, the place where we meet with you is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan where each of us can get a pole, and let us build a place there for us to meet." And Elisha said, "Go." Then one of them said, "Won't you please come with your servants?" They went to the Jordan then. Elisha said, "I will," and he went with them. So then they go to the Jordan and they began to cut down trees. They're basically going to build homes that are there by the shore of the Jordan, isolated from the community, kind of almost like monks in today's culture, how they isolate themselves. So they go and they begin to cut down trees. And as one of them was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water. "Oh no, my lord," he cried out, "it was borrowed." The man of God, that's Elisha, asked, "Where did it fall?" And when he showed him the place, Elisha cut a stick and he threw it there, and it made the axe head float. "Lift it out," he said. And the man reached out and he grabbed the axe head that was floating. Cool story. Maybe you've heard it in the Bible, maybe you haven't. But here's what I like about the story. It is a story that is in between a couple pretty significant stories in the Bible. Just before this story is the story of God healing an Aramean general. So a healing is a pretty significant miracle. Just after this story in 2 Kings is God delivering Israel from an army. So once again, pretty significant stories. But now sandwiched in between these pretty significant miracles, these pretty significant events and stories, is a guy's axe head falling in the water. And you don't, it's just kind of life, right? It's not like end of the world type stuff. It's not like, almost not like it's even worthy of God's time, if you think about it. But here's what's cool about the story is that even though it's common, it's mundane, it's not really worth God's time, God still provides a miracle. Now, from the guy that was part of the company of prophets that lost the axe head, it was a big deal for him because he borrowed it and he'd need to return it. And assuming this guy's a prophet, he's probably not making a lot of money, and he's not a head prophet, let alone not that they even make much money either, but he's kind of a prophet underling, right? So he probably doesn't have the financial wherewithal to buy and to replace the axe head. So I'm not saying it wasn't significant for this guy, but when we think of like the significant things that are worthy of God's time, let's just say it probably wouldn't rank. But yet God's there in this very everyday simple moment. And when Elisha throws that stick into the water, that twig into the water, this heavy axe head just floats up to the surface, and the guy's able to grab it and reattach it to his axe. Well, what I like about that is even in our lives, and things might not be life or death, it honestly may not even really be worthy of God's time. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't still care for you and that he doesn't still care for me. And honestly, it doesn't mean that he won't still listen to our concerns and hear our prayers and help us in our time of need, even when it's not that big of deal. When I look at the last, couple months of my life, I totally see the hand of God in just normal everyday situations that I'm trying to work my way through and figure out what's the best thing for me or the best thing for the church or for people I'm managing or trying to help and so forth. I, honestly, like, even in conversations that I have, like, sometimes, when you're talking to someone or dealing with a situation, there just doesn't seem to be a middle ground, or maybe there doesn't seem to be a good avenue forward. Maybe it's a kind of a no-win situation for what you're trying to do and what the other person is up against and so forth. And a lot of those times I'll just sit there and kind of meditate, reflect, and think. And more times than not, like, God will put a thought in my head that once I receive that thought, I'm like, man, that's a good idea. I don't think I would have come up with that on my own. And almost always, then, when I go and have those conversations, like, they work, and it solves whatever issues or concerns that I'm dealing with. God is in those just everyday conversations. I recently had one of those conversations, and when I went to have it with the individual, at first, like, it didn't look like it was a good solution for the person I was talking to, and I was really kind of confused because in my heart I kind of felt like, wow, yeah, this is good for them. It's good for me. It's a win-win situation. Wow, they're going to like this. I think this could be a good thing. But initially it wasn't necessarily received like it was going to be that way, but then after just a short period of time, like, the individual was like, yeah, that might work. And that's just how, like, God, I mean, that's not monumental. It's not like, I'm not even throwing it out to you as miraculous. I'm just saying, as God guides by his Holy Spirit, like, he processes through just the interpersonal, relational conversations we have when we need a little help. When our axe head sinks to the bottom of the river, as I'm dealing with, staff issues, or maybe a member who's frustrated about something. I mean, listen, none of these things are end of the world things. The sun's going to rise tomorrow. I'm still going to be the pastor of the church. So probably still going to be at the church. But when we lean into God and ask him for help with, dealing with, whether that be conflict or someone who's hurting, trying to come up with the right words or what have you, like, God cares about the everyday stuff, and he'll be there for you. I mean, the older I grow, the more I grow in my faith, like, I just see God in the ordinary, in the everyday things all the time. And honestly, even trying to hire the new staff, I mean, it's taken, from dealing with, like, some drama that I've had to deal with over the past couple months as the staff was changing, to then conversations that I was having to have with different members, to then hiring new staff. Like, God's been there in that whole bit, like, just guiding it, and it's been, like, incredibly smooth. And yeah, for me, 2.5 months is a long time to look for a replacement, to replace Joe, but God's been faithful in that, and has given me the not only the right candidate to be able to move forward on it, but honestly, I tried to move forward with a different candidate, and it probably would have worked great, but for whatever reason, they decided they didn't want to make the move, and I felt like God led me to kind of go back and look at all the applicants I had already received at that point. And I noticed that during a part of this time, I was really busy, and I was kind of focused on this one candidate that I wasn't really given thoughts to other people, and I had another candidate that was highly qualified and really good around that same time, and I was able to circle back to him and move forward with him, and I think he's just gonna be a great fit, right? Once again, I mean, we're not talking about, like, healing the dying We're not talking about giving sight to the blind. We're not talking about averting thermonuclear war. We're talking about just everyday life. And that's what that floating axe head shows, is like God is there for us in just the simple things, even as he is in the great. So my encouragement to all of you listening to this podcast is, don't just take the big things to God. I mean, by all means, take the big things to God. But if you can't find your keys and you need to get somewhere, take it to God. I mean, don't pray for like the Dallas Cowboys to win, because someone, if they're playing the Seattle Seahawks, someone's praying on the other end of that. And I don't know that we should be bothering God with those kind of things, right? But in the things that matter to you because of important things that you're dealing with or wrestling with, even though they're not life-changing, take it to God. A lot of us have financial concerns. Take it to God. And like, know that, like, he'll give you a way through. I mean, if it's important for you to have your spouse stay home with the kids when the kids are young, well, I mean, don't necessarily take it to God like, God, why are we broke all the time? Well, you're broke because you're making a very noble decision to try to raise the kids at home until they reach school age, or maybe if you homeschool, like even longer than that. So I mean, there's going to be sacrifices for decisions we make. But especially in those times in which, like, we're not in control of things that happen, like the tire gets flat on the car, or you have hail damage and it's $1,000 deductible. I mean, take that stuff to God. He cares about the axe heads that fall in the water. He cares about your financial concerns. He cares about your relationship issues. And I'm telling you, like, if you pray for these things and meditate on these things and get still and quiet and reflect upon God upon these things, and what I mean when I say that is, like, sometimes it's just you get busy praying, and praying's good and you should pray, but then you have to still your mind and still your mouth, or however you're praying to God, and let him speak. Let him to pour ideas and thoughts into your head, and he will, because God cares about the axe heads that fall in the water, and he's going to care about, relationship issues and concerns. And if you offer that up to him, he's going to give you wisdom on how to move forward and how to navigate the pitfalls that so oftentimes come with relationships and the hurt feelings and broken relationships and so forth. And likewise, job stress, right? I mean, we all have job stress. The sun's going to come up tomorrow. We all have job stress, but that doesn't mean that God isn't going to hear your prayers on that he might not soften hearts of your boss or of a coworker that's giving you a hard time, or that he might just strengthen you just so you don't care as much, that you don't have to have people like you all the time, or that you get the attention of your boss and all of a sudden he becomes less critical of you. I don't know what the scenario is. I just know that, like, when things bother you, I don't want to say they bother God, because I can't speak for God, but when things bother you, God cares about you, and he will help you to move forward and to move past it. So I hope you appreciate the story of the axe head, and that it encourages you that God's with us. He's with us in the good times. He's with us in the bad, but he's also with us in the significant struggles, and also oftentimes, in the daily struggles. I appreciate you joining me for this episode of God Talk, and I will not give you the clappy sound or the cheery sound on the way out, but I look forward to talking to you next time. God bless.